Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Carlos. How are you? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. It's another week. We're almost back to all the strength and everything. So it's awesome to be back.
Yeah, I think the
It's a
Omicron
week.
wave is, kind of hopefully we've hit the peak and we're past it, at least in this part of the United States. That's what they're saying. So hopefully that's going to be true around the world. And January seems to be going fast. I don't know how it feels for you, but, we're already, a little more than halfway through the
Yeah,
month.
that's what I was saying. Like I was looking, I'm like, oh wow, we were on the 21st, and it's already like almost the month has gone.
I know
It's not.
time's moving along, but that's good. I think that certainly here in the Northeast, we're cold right now. It's like every day I get the alert. It's going to be 10 degrees colder tomorrow than it was today, and it's like how low can it go? So certainly different for those of you in Florida or other kind of warm climates in the United States and around the world.
So you want to laugh? We are freezing. It's 70s.
70s is shorts and t-shirt weather for New Englanders. We'd be just fine with 70s. So
Yeah, that's funny. So, my friend, I'm looking on the news and everything, and they're talking about a bunch of things to be looking at. And I got people asking me, and again, uh, our whole idea is that we can have a tech conversation. What do you think about the whole metaverse? I'm buying things, I'm buying like NFTs for, I'm looking, I'm like, all of a sudden, like, Gap, like a clothing store, is actually making NFTs so you can buy a branded shirt. Uh,
yeah. So I have a 15-year-old son who I've talked about on this show before. His one request for Christmas gift was to get the Oculus headset made by Facebook, Meta, all of that. Uh, and so he got it. That was kind of his big gift that he was looking for. Surprisingly, very inexpensive. It's like a $200 item. It's not
yeah,
not a crazy. Uh, and we've played with some of that stuff before in school. They've done like Google Cardboard and those kind of things to try to do some sort of virtual, but it's not the same when you put on the Oculus headset
yeah,
and you get into some of those games. Like one of the ones that he knows that I'm not good with roller coasters. I like we go to Disney or something like that, the kids get on the roller coaster and they're like, they want to go on every time. Like I go on one and I'm kind of like just praying to God that it will end soon. So I put on the headset and I go through one of the roller coasters and like I had to take it off because it's that immersive. Like it feels, like your stomach kind of drops. So I think that, if you've seen the movie Ready Player One, it does a great job of kind of predicting the future, which I think my son was telling me, like the dates in Ready Player One are not that far into the future. Like we're almost to the timeline of where that was. Uh, but having that virtual immersive world, certainly doing an event like this, right, where we could have our headsets on and be in the virtual world, participants could also watch and we could interact with people. I see how we could get there, but I don't think we're like 2 to 3 years away. I think there's more time. I think from an entertainment factor, uh, putting it on and we play mini golf and he does a boxing game that's quite a workout. Like there's a lot of fun things to do with it right now, but in terms of business applications, I think that it's going to be some time before people feel comfortable with the whole virtual reality. I think mixed reality, augmented reality has more applicability now. So more like the Microsoft HoloLens device. To me, I see how that one fits in a little bit better than just throwing on the true headset and being in the virtual world. What do you think?
it's interesting. Like our team, we did a competition at the end of last year. So we got, I think, the whole team around the world. We were going through different certs, different things, and we actually end up doing a virtual now meeting with several team members that have separate in different areas, and the whole meeting is in full Oculus VR.
Oh,
So you
wow.
actually are having the full experience. It's actually interesting how things that happen outside start trickling down into the business world. And I mentioned that we have some people in LinkedIn like commenting like "good job" and stuff like that. But it's interesting that to think about what a business should be looking at, and I think tech to watch for this year in our world. We work with a lot of small businesses that is different than, let's say, an entrepreneur market that they
Hmm.
may be like a solopreneur, that they own all their tech, so they don't have infrastructure, or even versus an enterprise that actually have data centers and investment, and they may even have really old technology.
Hmm.
So let's take a little bit about from the medium, that SMB type market, or even the ones that support them. What do you think that is some of the areas that they should be looking at for this year that could give them like a really good, let's say, headway, or so they could become innovative for their customers?
Yeah, I think that we didn't in my answer before. I talked about the Oculus piece. I didn't talk about the NFTs, but as one of our commenters saying, authors building NFT chapters. Like, I'm also like on the weekend, my thing is photography, and I've thought like, hey, if I can sell my pictures as NFTs, and someone wants to pay me for that, like that's great. Like I'm happy to all my drone equipment and things that I use for photography, like it'd be nice to somebody help support that. So I think that when people look at the Web3 stuff as it's known, whether that's NFTs or other things, crypto, those kind of get lumped together. I think that uh, both SMB customers, kind of companies that are out there doing their own thing, as well as their technology partners, managed service providers, and others, I think it's good to just keep up to speed on it and kind of keep on ideating on what this could mean for them. I think if there's an obvious play because they do create digital content or those kind of things, and they can uh, sell it as an NFT, and that's an opportunity to monetize something that maybe didn't exist before. I think that's a good channel. I think for a lot of people, the sad or kind of risky piece that I see, unfortunately, and again, I'll refer to my son who again, 15 years old. So he's watching all the stuff with crypto and he's like, oh, we got to get a Coinbase account. We got to buy this, crypto and this kind of thing. That to me is, there's people looking for, it's kind of like a digital gold rush kind of thing, right? They're looking for the big hit. They think that that's a big win. And I think that's potentially risky. The one piece that I thought was really interesting, there's a marketer named Mark Schaefer, who's an author and speaker and blogger and all of that. He told the story in his blog this week about he has now issued a crypto coin that's his on a platform. I believe it's called Reveal. Or actually, let me look at it. I'll figure out what the platform is. But essentially, the story is you can issue your own crypto, and then through that, use that for people to do things like come back and buy books or buy one-on-one sessions with him or maybe attend a conference that he's doing. That's something Gary Vaynerchuk is doing with his NFTs. So I think those are some opportunities where it's got to be more than just kind of having the crypto, right? There's crypto kind of as a way to park US currency and then try to trade it back out like it's a stock. And then there's creating crypto coins and things to create engagement with your customers. And to me, that's something that has a greater opportunity for businesses of all sizes.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like Eric is mentioning, if crypto is a new gold rush, I think that it may be a little bit like, it's interesting here in the Miami area. Um, I think that was in the Miami Dade, so the governor of the city, in order to help boost the economy, they, instead of raising taxes, they actually created a coin
Hmm.
to be able to start raising funds for some of it. So it's interesting how some of these technologies are actually starting to get into our world, and the businesses need to start looking at what the future going to bring,
Hmm.
but then also realizing that, hey, what happened with my current environment if I am not protecting it? What happened if I have aging infrastructure or systems that I haven't paid attention? Like, one of the easiest thing that I always get is like, where can I get a free antivirus
Yeah. Well,
to
and
run a
that's
business?
yeah. I think like if you think about your and I put the link into the chat for the Mark Schaefer article. So if people want to read that, if you want to share that one. So
Yeah.
I had the wrong company name. He used a platform called uh, Rally.io. as
Hmm.
the platform that he issued his crypto coin through, and he talks about kind of why and how it works and all that good stuff. So I think for people who are considering it or want to hear a story about what people are doing, I think that that's a useful one to consider. Uh, Going back to the point that you just made about, so like you can go off and do all this digital stuff and create, your own crypto coin and issue NFTs through OpenSea as kind of one platform for doing that. But I'll kind of come back to, more like the house metaphor, right? Like at your house, if you thought about putting a security system in, you probably look at your local crime statistics as a part of the decision, right? Like you're thinking, well, crime is pretty low in my area, and do I really need the expense? Because it's not just the one-time setup; it's the ongoing, fee of kind of having the monitoring service. And ADT's been around for a long, long time, but they're known for kind of having predatory contracts that you can't get out of, and they, all kinds of things that happen. And then you can do like the Simply Safe and set it up yourself and have a monitoring service, and then you got to figure out, did I do it right? Right? There's a lot of stress and anxiety around that in the world of company connected to the internet. The entire world crime statistics are of concern to you, right? Because cyber crime can happen from one side of the world and hit another. And as our CEO here at Datto, Tim Weller, likes to say, it's seen by many as almost like a victimless crime, right? Because if you're on the other side of the world from a hospital in the United States, or if you're in the United States and it's a hospital in Africa or the UK or India, people may not think about it, and it's just it's more like a transaction. So the idea is, from protecting your resources, and especially as your content for your company becomes more and more digital, how do you protect yourself? And that's where you must have a base layer of cybersecurity services in place to protect yourself. And free, yes, there are some free solutions that are out there. Would you trust your company? We told a story last week on the show about a company that filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy because they got hit with ransomware. They paid the ransom, never got the keys to decrypt, and they lost their entire company, filing for bankruptcy now because of it. So I do think that that's something that, it's not fun tech like VR headsets, or I've got actually a new widescreen monitor that's going to be delivered today that I'm very excited about. Like that's fun tech. This is not fun with cybersecurity, but it couldn't be more important to securing a company's business and protecting them.
Uh, and it's like you just mentioned something. Sometimes we focus on what is fun. I remember when I got the call from one of the CEOs for a company that I worked a long time ago that over the weekend he got an iPhone. And he's like, so they call desktop support, figure out how to connect it. And at that time, if you remember, at the beginning, there was no way to connect it to an enterprise. So then they called the architecture team and was like, so the CEO just bought this thing called an iPhone. So everybody was way excited, but then the only way to make it work was to lower security. You needed to open ports in the firewall. You needed to get. So sometimes we focus on that idea. It's really cool. Let's look at it. We secure it later. That's the thing that I get constantly. We'll figure the security out later. And I
Yeah, and
think that for this year is that need to change because we have seen too many incidents of companies getting affected because they haven't taken the time to secure their environments correctly.
yeah, and I think that's where working with a professional firm that's going to help put down the base layers of security that every organization needs, and quite frankly, everybody at home needs, right? Like I have, I don't know how many, probably 50 devices connected to my Wi-Fi network right now, because we've got cameras, we've got this, we've got game consoles, we've got VR headsets, we've got so many devices connected. So having a base layer of security is important, and then looking at the specific applications and use cases. Do you have compliance needs because of the industry that you're in, because of the type of information that you handle? There's a lot of kind of additional layers to it. The other thing that I think a lot of people miss is, uh, if you're a Facebook user and you played games over the years, chances are you said yes, yes, yes when it asked for permission to connect to your Facebook profile. If you went in there now and looked at the application permissions that you've authorized over the years, you would be horrified because you would see all these applications that are authorized to your profile that you probably haven't used in a long time and probably didn't need to authorize in the first place. Same happens in the business context, more with SaaS applications. So many of them will integrate with Salesforce or integrate with your Google Analytics or integrate with this and that, and people just kind of light them up and authorize all those connections. And then, it's no big deal until all of a sudden now it comes out in the news that that organization was hacked and now your credentials have been stolen. And it wasn't a primary system, maybe it was just kind of an ancillary system you're using, but it also had access to your organization and it had some access to information. And nobody really knows what was taken or lost in some of these exchanges. So to me, that's part of the ongoing risk. And you need to be a cybersecurity expert or have access to one to figure this stuff out. I think for most business people, they won't even know the extent of all of this stuff. That's why you need a trusted partner to work with you on that.
And you just mentioned something interesting, and it is that for years, you probably have shared your email with someone. You sign up for a service, you sign up for a newsletter, you got access to something. And all the breakings, sometimes they go directly into the user credentials,
Mhm.
but they know that probably people may change their password at least probably once every year or every 2 years. Um, you actually then start getting emails that actually can invite you to try new things. And that's where you get then sent to sites that look like a valid, or I don't know if you get this, but I tried to help my dad. He get email. Your Amazon order is hold up. And like, can you check this for me? Why my Amazon order? I'm like, so and then my first question is, did you order something in Amazon? He's like, no. Well, it probably
Yeah,
is not a valid email,
it's a
but
phishing attempt. Yeah,
yeah. So looking at that this year should be one of the areas that we should be focusing on is how to protect our communications and how things come, because first thing is the infrastructure that you should have it protected. You should be, if you don't have something that, let's say, allow you to continue your operations in the event of a disaster, that will be backup, that will be recovery, that will be extending if you were on premises to a cloud provider. If you're on the cloud, that you extend if something happened, because it's not just about that the cloud will go down. It's what happened when your workload is affected, and it could be a patch. I remember a patch Tuesday when all of a sudden the servers did not boot up again, and it was not an attack. It was just a bad patch that it could happen. But also looking at how our communications can be protected, but also what to do to analyze the infrastructure and everything that happened, because there's some other nefarious situations where people come in and it doesn't get detected as an attack because they're actually not infecting, they're just running in memory, or they're actually using some other holes that can be affecting the environment.
yeah, and even while we've been live on LinkedIn right now, talking about this, I got a text message that says AT&T free message, December bill is paid. Thanks. Here's a little gift for you, and then it has a URL that it wants me to click. It's not an AT&T URL. I've been getting this text message every so often from some strange number, right? But that's a phishing attempt that's coming in through text message. How did they get my number? I actually do use AT&T for my mobile carrier. Do they know that somehow? Like I don't know where they got my information or why they keep attempting to me. And unfortunately, there's not a lot I can do but block this number. The reality is, of course, that number is going to be single use for them. They're going to use another number the next time and send a similar message, and they're going to keep trying until, and then I have to educate my family, right? If this were in the business context, I would be telling my users in the organization, like, watch out for these kind of things. So I think, there's definitely a user education piece of it. There's obviously a set of software layers to this to help protect an organization. What needs to be out there. We actually had a demonstration this week on one of our internal calls about our SaaS defense product that we call it here at Datto that provides a layer of security over Microsoft 365's cloud. And one of our product leaders was going through a scenario where it was a virus essentially that we haven't seen before, um, but it's coming in through a set of characteristics that we can detect and then quarantine it before it gets to the user to make sure that essentially the threat's been neutralized. So there's evolving tech, just like there's evolving tech in the fun kind of side of things. There's evolving tech in the threat world as well. People are writing viruses that interact with computers and devices and people in new ways, and so it's a moving target. And again, for most companies, like, we're not trying to scare anybody, right? Just trying to give a reality check here as you think about the year ahead, how important it is to protect your organization and work with someone who's going to help provide a layered model to security, to make sure that you've got all the fundamentals in place, and then start looking at specific needs based on your type of business.
And you just mentioned something, to partner with someone that is constantly evolving.
Mm-hmm.
I think that one of the most important details with whoever you partner, companies that I personally look to partner or do business with on my personal when I buy something, is someone that is constantly looking or investing to do better in their area of expertise.
Mm-hmm.
Like I probably spend about 8 to 15 hours a month in courses just to learn something new. Have nothing to do with business, but I may be able to use it.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that I mentioned that is that you need to look for a partner or for a company that is doing something similar, because that's what gonna guarantee that when you hit that roadblock in the future, and it's not that you're not gonna hit it, is that when you hit it, you can pick up the phone and say, hey, I had this problem. Have you seen it? And they go, yes, here's the solution. Or I know someone that can help you. Here's how you go forward with it. And I feel that that's really important for our audience. And if you're a partner, Mike and I work for that, and it's very interesting. All the ramifications, how we're looking to focus to help the partners actually grow their business. But at the end of the day, is servicing people so they don't suffer, like they don't lose their data, they don't get affected, they don't lose their livelihood, like that company that we mentioned last week that appeared on the Wall Street Journal. um, it's something to pay attention in this 2022.
Yeah, and I think the opportunity is out there. So if you are a technology provider, who are the brands that you partner with? Obviously, you want to make sure they're doing a good job for you with delivering the services, but also how do they help keep you educated and apprised of what's coming down the road so that you can be prepared. The biggest thing, I've spent 27, almost 28 years in this industry. That I guess I'm starting to feel old enough to say that. I used to say the opposite, but I've been around long enough to know that a big part of kind of keeping up with things is the ability to consume massive amounts of information, synthesize it, prioritize it, figure out what's important that you need to act on, and what's kind of parking it for down the road. And I do not envy MSPs. They have a lot of information coming their way. They have a lot of vendors coming their way. They have the needs of their customers, the needs of their employees. There's a lot of priorities to balance. So I think, selecting those information sources that are really going to be vital channels for you. It could be on Twitter, could be on Reddit, could be on LinkedIn, but finding the 2 or 3 or 4, however many people you can, and then putting the time into it. Like you're talking about your monthly training, which I think is critical, right? I've for a long time blocked off on Friday mornings until we started doing this. Friday mornings, I used to do an hour of training every week. I don't care what it is. It could be, something for my company. It could be a LinkedIn course. It could be something on the web for sales, marketing, technical, something. But I think dedicating time to training and kind of keeping up with what's going on. Some people feel like it's wasted time to read the news or take a course, for something that's not directly relevant to your day-to-day job. But 9 times out of 10, you're going to use it. May not be today or tomorrow, and maybe 6 months down the road or a year. But I think always kind of, this is the Franklin Covey, sharpening the saw, right? Like having that mentality about being a continuous learner, I think is really important, especially in this ever-changing world around computing and cybersecurity.
So something happened this week, um, and I'm really excited for everything they're gonna bring and to have the opportunity to learn more because I used to work directly in a similar role as the founders. I used to work for the long time ago for the U.S. Army South Command,
Hmm.
and at that point in time, one of my roles was actually in the cybersecurity world. Uh, I don't remember if we used to call it that, but we're talking about probably 15, 20 years, long time ago. Um, but the idea that we're looking to provide a simple way for the partners to conduct analysis on the security and how they can secure the environments for their partners, that's really exciting for me because I've been involved in security for a long time. It's part, if you learn security, you can get ingrained in everything that you do, from personal to business. But as a business leader, how important do you think that it is for someone at your level to understand that connection, that someone is looking and that you can bring experts to help you or to secure your environment if you're a small business? Uh, Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think the certainly the Israeli Defense Force is famous for their cybersecurity unit, and the people who have come out of it, I think, have founded something over, I think, 200 different companies in the cybersecurity category. The company InfoSight that Datto acquired and announced yesterday. Their founders came from the United States Air Force, so they have a cybersecurity unit embedded there that these two founders came from. So the military, obviously the stakes are much different when it comes to cybersecurity and cyber warfare, which is kind of the new battlefield. Unfortunately, just the nature of where we're at. uh, there's a concerns in the world right now about what's happening in Ukraine, and about cybersecurity, and their systems have been under attack, and hacking and those kind of things. So and there's troops building on the border. So like this is the new modern warfare, unfortunately. uh, how does that translate into the business world, right? So as these cybersecurity experts leave the military and come into the business world, oftentimes the concepts, the nation state actors and cyber criminals who are going after countries are also going after private businesses. And so this is again, an evolving world. But knowing that there are services out there that are based on the tech that's being used in the military arena, that can be leveraged in the business world to protect. And then what I like also about InfoSight is their managed services. So they have a security operations center which manages all the endpoints and the monitoring. So looking for those incidents and then having professionals respond. Unfortunately, one of the things that ransomware does is creates this kind of locked up environment where all of a sudden your entire organization might be encrypted, plus all your backups you can't access, and you've got a screen that basically says pay in Bitcoin to this address, right? And you feel helpless in that case. uh, Certainly the last thing that you want to do is to start clicking away on the keyboard and trying to do things, right? It needs to be handed over to professionals to be able to address what's happening. That's the kind of tech and kind of expertise that's needed these days to help recover as quickly as possible, and try to mitigate and clean the systems, right? Like that's a big piece of it. Is you think that you might have got it all, but then there might be something left in there. So how do you actually lead through a recovery? So again, there's something that we don't want people who are business leaders in all different functions to have to worry endlessly about this. But there's a certain amount of knowledge that every business leader needs to just know that you have certain risks, that you need some key partners who are going to be out there to be the experts to provide proactive security, and then also know that if something were to happen, that you have the resources in place to respond to that and address whatever the incident is that's come up.
And that is why I'm really excited about all this, because we're going to be able to, in the future, share a little bit more about it. But these were some of the things that happened this week. We love to keep chatting with all of our audience. Make sure that you schedule it on your calendar every Friday at 9 o'clock Eastern time. Sometimes we have different guests. So, my friends, been awesome to see you. Mike, thank you very much. As every Friday. My friends, we'll see you next week here in Tech Conversation Secrets.